Thanks so much for joining me. Wildfire smoke continuing to darken skies and reduce air quality throughout much of southern British Columbia and the Pacific Northwest of the United States. Let's take a look at what's going on out there. This satellite imagery from Thursday evening showing a number of active fires continuing to burn there through southern BC and Washington state there. So it's really just a function of what's upwind of you. We can see a lot of these mountain valleys through southern BC hopelessly socked in with smoke. That smoke really trapped there for a number of reasons with generally high pressure. We see sinking air in the atmosphere, light winds, that traps the smoke in the region. And we're also seeing some more fires burning more locally in some of these areas, including the Okanagan Valley there. These fires smoldering and adding to the smoky conditions as well. But the fires burning farther east under this smoke are probably a little bit more muted, given the smoke really reducing the amount of solar radiation that reaches the surface. So temperatures a little bit cooler, winds a little bit lighter, reducing sort of our fire activity in areas farther to the east, but nonetheless, they continue to smolder and add smoke. But unfortunately, the upwind edge here, much sunnier, warmer, windier, enabling these fires to remain much more active and continuing to produce large amounts of smoke for areas downwind. This has been a very persistent pattern. It looks like it's going to continue in the coming days. Let's look at some ground truth here from Castanet, a webcam on Knox Mountain, looking south over downtown Kelowna. Horribly smoky conditions there. Reduced visibilities. In fact, Kelowna Airport reporting 3-mile visibility in that smoke as of mid-afternoon, but Kamloops looking even worse. From tourism Kamloops here, we can see just gross conditions there. Of course, Kamloops is often quite smoky. The local geography there, the confluence of several valleys, we often see a lot of smoke in Kamloops, but it's really bad out there. 2.5 miles of visibility at Kamloops Airport. That gets us into IFR, instrument flight rules. Basically not legal to fly visually anymore, given the reduced visibilities. Have to rely on instruments if your aircraft are equipped with them there. And of course, also cooler there, 26 degrees. That's much cooler than we would expect. Our forecast highs are kind of in the low 30s. So in sort of more ordinary sunny conditions, it'd be much warmer. So you can see that smoke working real time to shave off, 5, maybe 6 degrees of temperature there in Kamloops. This image here shot from Matt Melnick, who's a pilot with WestJet. He flew from Tokyo to Calgary on Wednesday. This looks like it's coastal BC there with some snow and ice fields. Valleys just full of smoke. And of course, that smoke also likely depositing black carbon, soot, really, on these ice fields, these snow fields here. That's kind of darkening them, making them less reflective so that the next time it's really bright and sunny, they can really absorb more solar radiation and accelerate the melt in these areas. That is one of our unfortunate side effects of heavy smoke throughout mountainous areas and especially over snow and ice fields. Horrible air quality throughout much of the Northwest states and southern BC. We saw, push of that smoke actually reducing air quality out to the coast, lower mainland, Puget Sound, down the Willamette Valley here in the Northwest U.S., but by far the interior valleys, eastern interior Washington state there, seeing the worst air quality. So we need to be careful out there when it's that bad. And unfortunately, given the stagnant conditions in the coming days, a couple little pushes of westerly winds here and there at times, but in general, very stagnant pattern that continues to be favorable for the burning of these fires on the upwind edge and sinking air downstream and lighter winds overall. So it's going to really cause that smoke to continue to be a problem throughout the interior BC and parts of the northwestern U.S. This is a good tool for anyone, really. Firesmoke.ca. You can see modeled smoke here, forecast out to about 2 days, just beyond 2 days or so. So you can keep tabs on what might be coming for your area. What's causing this horrible fire season across the region? Well, I'll tell you, one of the major factors, is the drought. We're seeing severe to extreme drought across much of British Columbia, and especially focused in the interior there. And, it really began last winter. We were expecting a much wetter winter than we saw there, kind of a more classic. We had a weak La Nina, tend to see a little bit wetter, snowier winter in the BC interior, but we saw a very, very limited snowpack, sort of an extension of that drought in the western states there. And so that's playing a significant role in that drought development. And of course, that persisted right through the spring. This is April, May, June, looking at our 500 millibar height anomaly, basically just the thickness of the atmosphere relative to normal. It's taller than normal here off the BC coast. That's associated with basically an upper level ridge here that's been very persistent off the BC coast, again causing sinking air on the large scale and limiting the amount of moisture transport into BC, keeping us much drier than we would normally be. June is the wettest month in the BC interior, and even though the interior BC does tend to be a fairly dry climate, it was much drier even than normal. So unfortunately, when you have these Very dry conditions. Fires can burn more intensely, more deep, like deeper into the soils, and that makes them harder to put out in areas where the soils are deeper. And so that's certainly playing a role. Chickens have unfortunately come home to roost now that we have ignitions across the landscape. Lots of fires, and they are very hard to stop given these conditions. Of course, also drought, sort of patterns of drought across North America can be tied to long-term sea surface temperature patterns. This is a map of sea surface temperature anomaly or difference from normal, and we can see ongoing in the north central Pacific here, this really warm blob here with cooler sea surface temperatures farther to the east, closer to the coast of North America. A fairly classic expression of the negative phase of the Pacific decadal oscillation. This has been associated in the past with episodes of sort of multi-year drought in western North America. So this could be playing a role. And more obviously here, the central and eastern tropical Pacific on a shorter time scale, getting into sort of more 9 to 12 months, we can see that that very strong El Nino starting to emerge here. That's going to play a significant role in our weather and climate in the coming weeks or months, rather, especially as we get into the winter time here. Let's talk about what's to come in the coming days, starting with our 10-day outlook for temperatures here remaining warm across BC and very warm in the southern interior. Again, with that caveat that we're seeing, slightly cooler conditions given the smoke, but in general, still remaining warmer than normal and also dry. And unfortunately there through Oregon, Washington, and southern BC, little to no precipitation expected, aside for the potential for some thunderstorms through portions of southern BC that could bring more ignitions for new wildfires. So we're keeping an eye on that, but in general, a persistent warm, dry pattern, and that will mean more of the same, more smoke and more reduced air quality throughout the region. Getting into the longer range here, getting out to September 21st, warm conditions persisting through Western Canada, and also, unfortunately, that dry signal continuing, especially along the coast, but also in the interior there. Getting a little wetter to the east of the Rockies in Alberta and northeast BC there, but unfortunately, where the rain is needed, we're not seeing too much forecast here based on the Euro weeklies. As we get even farther out, looking at our seasonal forecasts here, hot off the presses from the Euro, we can see that warmth sort of focused in the west and north, spreading east into the heart of the winter time. Fairly classic signal of that very strong El Nino. Could be a year without a winter, or at least it might seem like that for much of Canada this year. And unfortunately, that will also probably be associated with lower than normal precipitation in parts of Western Canada. Looks like the coast could end up getting a little bit wetter, as we've also seen in past very strong El Ninos. But you get east of the coast mountains, you get into the interior BC and into Alberta, it could be a much drier than normal winter, which would be very concerning for areas that are already dealing with severe to extreme drought in the BC interior. So we're going to have to keep an eye out for that as we get into 2027. Of course, wildfire smoke is not good for us. We all know that. Limit time outside. Wear a mask if you have to be outside. Keep the doors and windows closed to keep your clean air spaces clean indoors. Of course, wildfire smoke is also hard on mental health. So, take care of yourself. Take care of your loved ones. We have a short enough summer as it is in Canada here, and so to have your summer months just full of smoke is no fun. So I wish I had a little bit better news this update. I promise I'll be the first to let you know if I see any rain coming in the forecast. But for now, we have to kind of buckle down and be prepared for more wildfire smoke. This will pass, but it looks like it could be a little while yet before that happens. Thanks so much for joining me. We'll talk to you next time.